Last summer, I did a series where I took a look at various draft prospects whose stock had fallen. I talked about who they were, their careers, and ultimately why their stocks quote-unquote crashed. We're going to continue that series this summer as we're going to talk about 3 prospects who I thought deserved to be drafted but ended up having their stocks fall and they went undrafted. There's not much more to explain here, so let's go ahead and get started and talk about the first guy on the list, Matteo Durant. Matteo Durant is probably someone you haven't heard of. Despite being an all-ACC player and having the best season in Duke football history, the running back was not talked about much in the mainstream college football media. Going back in time, he grew up to an athletic family in the small town of Plum Branch, South Carolina. It's apparently located on a lake, and fishing is a lot more popular than football. He started playing sports in middle school and always loved the game. His favorite team growing up was Georgia, but the first college game he ever saw in person was when his uncle took him to see Clemson versus Auburn. That was a huge game for him to see, and it inspired a love for the game for him, and he decided that's what he wanted to do. He eventually went to McCormick High School, which was in a rival town, and despite going there, he was proud to be from Plum Branch as he had a tattoo of it on himself. While he was there, he started to blow up early on. In his first season starting, he rushed for 1,979 yards and 26 touchdowns. He had a huge career as he had finished at more than 6,200 yards and 78 touchdowns while also getting selected to the Shrine Bowl. He's one of the most productive running backs in his part of the country, but despite all those excellent numbers, he was not a big-time recruit. He eventually chose Duke over Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, and Wofford. He loved Duke for more than just football. He said, quote, "For educational purposes and football, it's the best of both worlds. You're playing big-time football in the ACC and getting the top education in the country." I can't say he's wrong there. According to 24/7 Sports, Durant was a 3-star recruit, the number 88 running back, and the 1,416th best player in the class of 2018. He arrived at Duke with low expectations, and pretty much no one in the college football world even knew who he was. As a freshman in 2018, he ran for 43 yards. In 2019, he saw an expanded role as he rushed for 461 yards and 1 touchdown. 2020 is when he would finally break out as he became the starting running back. He ran for 817 yards and a career-high 8 scores. 2021 was going to be his huge breakout campaign and where he solidified himself as one of the top backs in the conference. He ran the ball 255 times for 1,241 yards and 9 touchdowns while averaging nearly 5 yards per carry. That was the best single-season rushing total in Duke football history, which was pretty insane. He was also named a first-team All-AC selection and had 10 games of over 100 yards in his Duke career. He finished as one of the most prolific backs in school history and decided he was going to head off to the NFL. While he was seen as a day 3 selection at best, he did not end up getting drafted. He would sign with the Steelers for the highest amount ever given to an undrafted free agent running back in Steelers history. He's quick, he had production, and he's hardworking, so he'll have an opportunity to make the roster, but he will have to compete with Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, and Trey Edmonds for a final roster spot. So why did he go undrafted? More than likely because of the value of the running back in today's NFL and the fact that he played at Duke. I mean, he was productive, he had good measurables, and he had good stats, so there's no reason why he wasn't drafted, except for the fact that he went to Duke. I definitely think he's an underrated player, and I wanted to spotlight him in today's video, so I definitely wish the best for Durant moving forward. Let's get to the next guy, Pascal Garrett. This dude has an extremely inspiring story. He was born to a normal family of 6 in the state of Vermont, but they would eventually decide to pack up their bags and move to Hawaii. After some time there, he was hit with the first tragedy of his life. His father died when he was only 13 years old, and that would not be the last tragedy for him, but it would cause the family to move. They decided to leave the Aloha State for Nevada, and Haskell started to put all his emotion and time into football. He was also a pretty big dude who was super athletic, so football came pretty naturally to him. By the time he got to high school, he was invited to play at Bishop Gorman, and he happily accepted that. And in case you don't know, Gorman is located in Las Vegas and is one of the biggest football powerhouses in the nation. He had all the skills and physical traits to be a dominant lineman, and he also produced. As a senior at the team, he finished with 53 tackles and a team-leading 6 sacks, while leading the team to multiple championship appearances. He had offers from a lot of big-time programs, which included Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon, USC, Texas A&M, UCLA, and Ohio State. He'd end up joining his teammate Tate Martell as he would go to the Buckeyes and fly across the country to Columbus. He was a huge deal, literally, as according to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star recruit, the number 6 defensive tackle, and the 68th best player in the class of 2017. He'd overcome a lot, so how'd he do at Ohio State? It's very tough to crack the rotation while at Ohio State, and that's why his first 2 years did not go according to plan. He finished with 3 tackles in 2017 and 7 tackles in 2018. 2019, he'd uptake it a little bit as he finished with 10 tackles, but he still had never registered a fumble, a sack, or an interception, and didn't even play meaningful reps. He was the highest graded returning lineman going into the 2020 season before he was hit with another tragedy, which is extremely weird. The Ohio State defensive tackle was minding his own business when a fight happened. He tried to break up an altercation, and during that process, he was shot in the face. The man had a gun and shot at Garrett, and the bullet went in one cheek and went out the other. It went through his teeth and his tongue, and blood was everywhere, and he felt like he was talking with marbles in his mouth. He immediately went back to his apartment, and he lived with his teammate Pete Werner, and they got him to the hospital. It was a grueling process back. He struggled to eat, and he had a ton of surgeries, and many players would have quit, but he didn't. 4 days before the season started, he was cleared to play, and this meant everything to Haskell, and it showed in his play. He now became one of the better players on the team as he finished with 20 tackles, 1 pass deflection, 2 sacks, and a pick 6. Because of that, he was named a first-team All-Big Ten selection, and his play was super inspiring. Ryan Day had this to say, quote, "I think you're seeing the best version of Haskell. Everybody here is very proud of what he's overcome. Not just the way he's playing, but the way he's handling himself, the way he's leading, and the way he's practicing." Instead of going off to the NFL, he would elect to return for the 2021 season, where he was an All-American and a first-team Big Ten selection, as he finished with 22 tackles, 1 pass deflection, and 5.5 sacks. Because of that, you'd assume he was going to be a high draft pick, right? Well, no, he was projected as a 4th or 5th round selection, but he ended up going undrafted. This shocked me, and it shocked many, but he was able to choose his destination, as he chose the Tennessee Titans and will try to make the roster. So why'd he go undrafted? Well, apparently he may have suffered an injury later in the 2021 season, and that's probably it, because besides that, I can't think of a logical reason, except the fact that he's a little bit older, but that doesn't make any sense either. Either way, if you have any insight, please let me know down below. Now let's talk about the final player whose stock crashed, Josh Jobe. Of course, we had to get an Alabama player in one of these videos, and we're going to talk about Josh Jobe. He grew up in Miami, Florida, and was always naturally talented at football. He eventually arrived at Christopher Columbus High School, where he actually played alongside former Miami Hurricanes star Trajan Bandy. Those two both decided they were going to go to the same school, and because of Miami's location, prestige, and his teammates' influence, he became a Hurricane. At the time, he was considered a 4-star recruit and one of the top cornerback prospects in the nation. It's not over though, as things would change. Before his senior year, he would actually have to transfer schools because he turned 19 past the cutoff, so he was actually not allowed to play in the Florida high school football system. He could have stayed there as a student, but he did not find that appealing enough, so he decided to fly up to New Hampshire, tour some schools, and would eventually attend Cheshire Academy. I hope I said that right. This was a big-time prep school in the area, and Jobe would become the highest-ranked recruit in the school's history, and he would not only change high schools, but he would also change colleges. When he announced he was switching schools, he was ranked a borderline 5-star recruit and was visiting Alabama at the time, so he was keeping his options open, and he knew this was going to stir some things up. He said, quote, "A lot of colleges are going to come at me. I have to see what they are talking about. I have to see how this season goes. I still have time to figure it out, and I don't know how Miami is going to react, but I have to do what is best for me." This is ultimately what he would do, as he would flip to Alabama after taking some time, and he took to Twitter and said, quote, "I want to thank all coaches from Miami, but at this time I have to do what is best for me, my future, and my family. I'll be signing with the University of Alabama on December 20th. That is exactly what he would do, as he could not pass up Nick Saban and the opportunity to play for the Crimson Tide. He was more than qualified to play there as well, as according to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star recruit, the number 14 corner, and the 109th best player in the class of 2018. So how would he do at Bama? As a freshman in 2018, he would play very sparingly, as he finished with 8 tackles and 1 pass deflection. 2019, he became a role player, as he finished with 28 tackles and 3 pass deflections alongside 1 pick. 2020 would finally be the year where he would start, as he finished with 25 tackles, 11 pass deflections, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, and he was seen as a cornerback prospect who was quickly rising up draft boards. He probably could have left for the 2021 NFL draft, but he decided he was going to stay home. How would he do? Well, his numbers would take a slight decrease, but he was still good and pretty much started every game. He finished with 38 tackles, 4 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions, while establishing himself as a surefire NFL draft pick. At least that's what we thought. That is not what would end up happening, as his name was not called. I swear as I watched the draft, he was the top prospect left for like 3 hours, but he was not taken in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, and he'd go undrafted. Later on that evening, it was announced that the Eagles would pick him up. So why did he go undrafted? Well, Jobe had been projected to go as high as the 4th round, but instead, he fell off of every team's draft radar. He apparently struggled in zone coverage, lacked elite speed, and was out of position a little bit too much. Still though, he probably should have been drafted. So many believe that it was an injury that ultimately led to him going undrafted. Either way, I think he's going to make the roster, but I got to give credit to the Eagles, as they also signed Carson Strong, the quarterback from Nevada, and the Eagles got 2 undrafted steals, and we're definitely going to touch on Strong in another video like this. What do you guys think though? If you're a fan of Mataeo Durant, Haskell Garrett, or Josh Jobe, let me know why you think they went undrafted. Give me your favorite draft prospect from this year, and also, I want to do more videos like this, so drop down below which prospect I should take a look at next. Before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.